Right now on Today in New York, honoring essential workers. The Canyon of Heroes will be filled today as those who worked through the pandemic are celebrated. Severe storms make a mess of the tri-state. Neighborhoods waking up in the dark while we all brace for more dangerous heat. Plus declaring victory. Eric Adams has a slight edge over his closest competitor, while some of the other candidates are not conceding yet. Morning, everybody. It's Wednesday morning. It is July 7th. I'm Darlene Rodriguez. Michael Gargiulo's off today. Lauren Scala's here tracking roads and rails, and Storm Team 4's LaRosa's here with the forecast. Good morning.
Good morning. All right, we had all those storms yesterday. Pretty wild. Those have moved away. So I'm going to start there and show you the satellite and radar picture. And pretty clear right now in our area. All of the action is offshore for now. So once again, we find ourselves between now and this afternoon talking about the heat. So the heat advisory continues through the rest of today and into this evening. And you guessed it, for that heat index that could at times approach the mid and upper 90s, near 100 degrees. Out there right now, it's plenty muggy and mild. 72 at Central Park now, 73 in Newark, 68 in Poughkeepsie, 70 out the door in Islip. It's going to be another hot one, and we're going to get another round of showers and thunderstorms later on this evening. But by lunchtime, we'll already be into the low and mid 80s. Feels like temperatures pushing the 90s. So I'll talk more about the heat when it breaks, and keeping an eye on those storms. I'll time them out for you coming up in just a little bit, but let's get you out the door. Lauren, what's going on?
There are some things happening out there already at this early hour. In fact, some that took place overnight. So the BQE eastbound by Northern Boulevard, there was just a big fire truck out here. There was an accident that takes out 2 lanes. It looks like the fire truck left, but some of the flares are still in the roadway. So looks like the accident may have cleared, but still use caution if you're headed that way. And then heading over to New Jersey, Route 28 closed in both directions out by Fairview Avenue. An accident overnight took down a utility pole, so that remains closed. There was a jackknife tractor trailer on 287 southbound in this area, but that recently cleared, so a little bit of an improvement. Darlene, back to you.
All right, Lauren, thanks so much. Well, as Maria said, it was a wild night of weather across our area. Take a look here at some serious damage in Astoria, Queens. Parts of trees came crashing down on cars and homes. Thousands of customers across the tri-state still without power. Well, something that may cause more problems when the temperatures heat up. Today, New York's Gaby Acevedo's in Ridgewood, New Jersey, where there is a mess, we understand. Gaby, good morning.
Very dark over here, Darlene. Good morning to you and to our viewers. As you mentioned, from Queens to Manhattan to Westchester County, and here in Ridgewood too, hundreds of people will be cleaning up from storm damage today. The intense storm left a trail of downed trees, taking down power lines. Making our way to this neighborhood, we noticed PSE and G crews working around the clock. And in parts of northern Jersey, many people spend the night without power, Darlene. The good news in that sense is that so far, due to the storm, no injuries have been reported across the tri-state. But we also saw a similar scenario in Queens with dozens of toppled trees around the area in Astoria.
So we were sitting in the living room, and then the sky got really dark, and it started to get really windy, and we just heard like a loud crack and then broken glass, and we ran to the front of the house, and the tree went through my roommate's room.
Darlene, at one point, 115,000 customers were left without power across the tri-state. And as you mentioned at the top, keep in mind that there's a dangerous heat wave heading our way. People are desperate to get their power restored. Reporting live from Ridgewood, Gaby Acevedo, Today in New York.
All right, Gaby, thank you very much. Well, it is an honor that's normally reserved for the armed forces and athletes, but today many of the heroes of the pandemic will walk the Canyon of Heroes. The ticker tape parade will be quite a contrast from where we were a year ago. We have team coverage all morning. Myles Miller on the Lower East Side and Tracie Strahan at the end of the route near City Hall. Tracie, we start with you. Good morning.
Hey, Darlene, good morning to you. Still a lot of preps going around here at City Hall, and if you haven't made your way down here yet for traffic, don't try to do so. They're already shutting down streets. The barricades are up. They're preparing for what could be the largest ticker tape parade in the city's history. Let's show you some video now, because the last time we had a ticker tape parade in the city, that was 2019. This morning's event is going to feature more than a dozen floats, each one representing 260 groups of essential workers. And we're talking about educators, healthcare workers, transportation employees, and utility workers, amongst some. There are some changes to the parade, and it all is because of the weather. The plans they had for a big ceremony here in front of City Hall, they've been scrapped because of the intense heat on the way. This is the first parade being held in the city since the start of the pandemic. And of course, it's meant to honor those who guided the city through its darkest days.
Work from home, school from home, so we had to make sure the power kept going.
The fact that the city is pausing, and taking a moment to recognize the essential workers, the people that kept the city moving.
Additional cooling centers are going to be set up for the participants, 2,500 of them expected. Now, you're also going to see water stations along the parade route for relief. The Grand Marshal, going to be a familiar face. Her name is Sandra Lindsay. She's a critical care nurse in Queens. And if that doesn't ring a bell, remember this. She was the first person in the country to receive the COVID-19 shot back in December. That's something we all watched. We're live at City Hall. Tracie Strahan. Today in New York. Darlene, back to you.
All right, Tracy, thank you very much. Well, one group of first responders will be noticeably absent from the parade today. City EMTs, paramedics, and fire inspectors are boycotting. The union representing them has been working without a contract for more than 2 years. They say they don't want a parade. They want a new deal for their 3,000 members. The union says its members worked 12-hour shifts during the pandemic without hazard pay. And today's event is all about people, the ones who continued to do their jobs without fanfare. Today, New York's Myles Miller is on the Lower East Side with that part of the story. Myles, good morning.
Darlene, good morning to you. We're here at Sanitation Department Garage number 3. The strongest are among those being honored this morning on the Canyon of Heroes. We're here at this garage on the Lower East Side, which picks up trash from the area all around here, from Lower East Side all the way up to the East Village, Chinatown as well. 3 members of this garage and then 30 altogether from the Sanitation Department will be marching in the parade this morning. They have already been out on the roads picking up your trash if you live in this neighborhood all morning long. Of course, sanitation workers worked throughout the pandemic to keep the streets clean, and then the department even managed the city's emergency meal program. Sanitation workers among the many essential workers who will ride up the Canyon of Heroes past City Hall. It's an honor, as you said, honor usually reserved for superstars and sports champions and even, of course, the military. But today, all eyes will be on those who kept us safe, clean, and healthy throughout this pandemic.
It was like a war zone, We're nurses, so it's our job to step up, and get the job done. I mean, that's what we're here to do.
It's important to note that some 300 city employees died of COVID-19. None of them came from this very department. At one time, 350 sanitation workers were out at the height of the pandemic. They stayed out on these streets to make sure that your streets were clean. And today, those who died will be honored as well. We're live on the Lower East Side this morning. I'm Myles Miller. Today, New York. Back to you.
All right, Myles, thanks so much. Well, if you can't make it to the parade in person, you can watch it right here on News 4. Live coverage begins at 11 o'clock on air and online. Well, now to Decision 2021 in the race for New York City Mayor. Eric Adams is declaring victory in the Democratic primary. Adams holds 50.5% of the vote right now over Catherine Garcia's 49.5%. That's enough for the AP, the Associated Press, to call the race for Adams. In a statement, Adams said in part, the results are clear. An historic, diverse 5-borough coalition led by working-class New Yorkers has led us to victory. Meanwhile, Maya Wiley thanked her supporters, saying in part, quote, "We will have more to say about the next steps shortly." As for Catherine Garcia, her campaign says we are currently seeking additional clarity on the number of outstanding ballots and are committed to supporting the Democratic nominee. Garcia set to speak to reporters about the latest results later this morning. The same goes for Maya Wiley. As for Adams, he is set to appear on several local and national morning shows. 409 right now, heading south. Elsa is now a tropical storm again, churning toward Florida's Gulf Coast. The expected landfall is just hours away. Well, here's a live look right now at Fort Myers, Florida. We've been watching showers and lightning fill up the sky. Now, Elsa crashed into the Florida Keys yesterday. Look at that, flooding roads and knocking out power to more than 1,300 customers. It is picking up steam over water-packing winds as high as 75 miles per hour, along with drenching rain. Right now, more than 4 million people in the Sunshine State are bracing for flooding possible tornadoes and potentially deadly storm surges. The Category 1 storm is expected to make landfall later this morning, somewhere between Tampa Bay and the low-lying Big Bend coast. So, Maria, I think the key words there, right? It's picking up strength.
Yeah, we had it come up to a hurricane briefly. It is a tropical storm now, but plenty of power, especially for those low-lying coastlines of the West Coast. Tampa Bay, as you mentioned, the Big Bend. That's why storm surge is being watched so closely. So we are still in play for some effects from Elsa, but we have plenty to deal with between now and then, and that's the heat, humidity, and more storms. Quiet for now, 72 degrees at Central Park. Not much of a heat index just yet. Not the case later on as we head back into the low 90s today. 93 in the city, 96 in Newark. We stay in the 80s from Islip and Montauk to Bridgeport, but those feels like temperatures will be into the mid 90s. There's Elsa right now. The track will take it close to our area just off our coast by the time we get to Thursday and Friday morning. I'll time that out for you. Talk about the flooding rain potential we have out of this too in the 10-day forecast.
All right, sounds good, Maria. Thank you so much. 5-4-11 right now on this Wednesday morning, and still ahead, battling gun violence. Governor Cuomo takes drastic action to attempt to solve the crisis. We'll have a look at his plan. But first, no Olympics for sensational sprinter Sha'Carri Richardson. Her response to being left off of Team USA.
If you are getting on the subways at this hour, you have delays on southbound FN and R lines. In addition to that, plenty of planned track work. So that impacts the 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, AE, DFL, and Staten Island Railway. Let's take a live look outside. If you're headed to the Holland Tunnel, that inbound tube is closed with road work until 5 a.m. You are watching Today in New York.
.413 right now, looking at Route 3. This is in Rutherford, New Jersey. Hope you're having a good Wednesday morning so far. Well, America's top sprinter, Sha'Carri Richardson, is responding to the support that she's getting after being left off the U.S. relay list for the Tokyo Olympics. 414 right now. Maria LaRosa is here looking at the weather. Good morning.
Good morning. A couple big stories again today. We're talking about temps and then some thunderstorms later on today. Let's start with the heat and humidity. Clouds, the showers and thunderstorms have moved offshore. However, we do have the risk of seeing some stronger ones again today. I don't think as widespread or to the level that we had yesterday, but again, another afternoon and evening to stay weather aware. For our max winds hasn't made landfall yet, but once it does, it'll continue its northeast track. And as you can see, rough surf, a lot of heavy rain. There is that flooding rain potential and some coastal concerns with the high tides. All right, 417, that's your weather. Lauren, what's going on out there?
There is an overturned vehicle that just came in. We're going to head over to Suffolk County, not causing any kind of delay. And alternate side of the street parking rules are in effect. Darlene, back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Lauren. 418 right now. Happening today, President Biden's back on the road to try to shore up support for his agenda. He's also trying to end the hesitations of people who have not gotten the COVID vaccine. NBC's Tracie Potts is in Washington with more on his efforts. Tracie, good morning.
Darlene, good morning. Let's start with that agenda, infrastructure and his American Families Plan.
Tracie Potts in Washington. Tracie, thank you. Well, new information this morning into Britney Spears' conservatorship case. The singer's court-appointed attorney has announced that he is now resigning. 420 right now in Florida. 8 more victims were pulled from the rubble of the Surfside condominium collapse. The total number of confirmed deaths now stands at 36. 421 right now, Governor Cuomo is issuing a statewide disaster emergency to tackle the rise in gun violence across the state. The move is the first of its kind in the country. It requires police departments to send shooting data to the state to identify gun hotspots. Meanwhile, the NYPD is confirming that it's seeing a drop in gun violence citywide. It says the number of shootings in June this year dropped almost 20% compared to June of last year. Murders also fell in that same period by 23%, and gun arrests are up by 100%. Well, for the first time in nearly a year and a half, Connecticut's state capitol has partially reopened to the public. The first floor of the building is now open weekdays for self-guided tours, but some lawmakers say the Capitol should have reopened to visitors sooner. Everybody has to wear a mask in common areas of the building, but temperature checks are no longer required. It's 423 right now, still to come. A place set about nothing. That's after the break. And later, a new era for the famed Woman Ring. Who's taking over the operation now that the city has cut ties with the Trump organization? You're watching Today in New York.